with Pam. Pam is a cat mom and holistic health seeker who, after suffering an injury that wouldn't heal, was led on a journey to seek out alternative, holistic, and natural medicine. She now shares what she learned, helping people and their cats along their path to holistic health. Pam has taken courses in holistic health for animals, muscle testing, and animal communication. Please welcome Pam. Back to News for the Soul.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Perfectly Holistic Radio Show. I am so excited to be here tonight. We have a very special guest, and I'll have to tell you, Adrianne and I go back way long time, like maybe over 20 years. I mean, it's been a really long time. We've been friends, and it's so exciting to reconnect with her tonight. So I'm going to just tell you guys just briefly about Adrianne. She is a shamanic healer and intuitive. She has a PhD in natural medicine. She's a doctorate in natural medicine. She has a master's in quantum physics and energy medicine. And she's a holistic health practitioner with quantum healing specialist. She began her work over 18 years ago in natural medicine, and over the years began to start identifying that most all conditions correlate to emotions, either consciously or unconsciously. And this realization moved her in the direction of shamanic medicine. It is here that she found her passion for assisting individuals in their journeys of awakening, releasing past emotional trauma in this life or carried over from other lives, and connecting to their higher self and source and finding their soul purpose in life. So welcome to the show, Adrianne. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm excited to chat with you about shamanism tonight. But first, tell us, I'm sorry, this is a new baby. This is Breeze. This is baby Breeze. Yes.
Look at those eyes.
Oh, my God, she's so sweet. She's just sweet. Oh, they're so cute. But I'm sure Skylar will show up here. She's down here on the floor. But yeah,
so I've got one next to me. So
there's Thor. We can never have a show without a cat. You know, it is all about cats after all. Well, thank you. Well, tell us a little about you. I want people to hear how you got started and everything that you've done over the last couple decades.
Yeah. Well, my mom, I was studying nutrition and I was doing personal training at the time. And my dad called me and said, your mom can't get out of bed. I was in Dallas. He was in Houston. And I'm like, well, what's going on? He's like, well, she's on all these medications. And so I flew down to Houston and looked at her and I'm like, no, Mom, this can't be happening. And she was probably only 50 at the time. And that made me so mad to see her bedridden. Mm-hmm. And so I dove into trying to fix her. And at the time I met my husband, Terry, and he was really into all this stuff. And I just started diving deep into, I went back to school. I was going into psychology at the time, and I transferred to U of H. And I love psychology, but I just felt like there was more to it than just talk. Mm-hmm. And so I got my first scanning machine, and it scans the body and finds frequency. Mm-hmm. And the frequency in her was saying that she was just really, really heavy metal, pesticide, fibromyalgia, that type of thing. And so we started detoxing her. Long story short, after probably about 2 years, she was back in school, got her organic master's gardener's degree, and was going out giving talks and stuff. So wow. The short story is you can reverse anything. And then when I had my son, I was at home when he was sleeping all the time. I'm like, well, I got to do something. So I started on holistic health practitioner, got certified in various things, kept going. And my PhD was in diabetes. And I thought, okay, well, maybe if I can just reverse a few, but actually reverse like 85%, got them off their drugs, their everything,
Right.
and their A1C glucose all got, normalized. And I'm like, this is so interesting. So I kept scanning people and kept scanning people, but I kept finding these underlying emotional components.
Mm-hmm.
And we can meditate, we can go to therapy, we can do a lot of things, but sometimes that's just not enough. And so then I had a pretty traumatic injury, and I'm like, something's talking to me. I kept getting injured on my right side, and I'm like, okay, I've got to figure out what's going on. And so I went to some shamans, and and I found out what the answer was, and it's all personal for everybody. But that put me on the path to shamanic medicine and being a shamanic practitioner. And it's just been really rewarding and exciting. It's wonderful.
That's amazing. Athena says, what is the scanner? Can you talk about the scanner?
Yeah. So the scanner I can do remotely or in person. I probably 90% of my people are remote. It's a lot like Reiki. So we all have an energy field around us, and it's our frequency or our aura.
Yep.
And it picks up the imbalances in the body. So it could be anything. We all have fungus, virus, amoebas, parasites, cancer, bacteria. We all have stuff in our body. But sometimes there are points in our lives where our immune system gets a little bit lower and we need assistance. So
Yep.
I can identify a little bit better if it's traumatic, physically or emotional, or if there's pathogens, which are all of the above, going on in the body, and identify and then do cleanses and detoxing and things like that.
Yep. Yep. Betsy says, is it an NES scanner or a Rife type of machine?
Yes. So I do have the NES, and I do have the scanner is called Life Systems. And they can't advertise on the website that it does remote, but it does. And yeah, so
that's awesome. Yeah, it's powerful. I think the whole concept of energy medicine, energy healing, energy therapies, put that all under one umbrella. I think it's going to become the wave of the future, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And in Europe and India and all these countries on the east side, this is what they do. They do homeopathy, they do frequency, acupuncture. We're just a little bit more conditioned because we've been brought up in the allopathic realm, and that's what we've learned to understand.
Yeah, the Rockefeller model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, David Rockefeller.
Yes.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And before he was around, we used natural healers. We used homeopathy. We used herbs. We used food. We used all these natural, modalities, ancient techniques, Chinese medicine, in Ayurvedic medicine. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years,
Yeah.
And so they obviously work, or they wouldn't still be used.
Right.
I mean,
right. And you look at the indigenous tribes in Peru and South America, and they're all using their herbs, and the Indians use their herbs.
Yes.
Somewhere we all know we kind of got lost in that whole thing and got on that allopathic thing, saying, okay, I need to go to a doctor. Okay, I got this drug. Well,
yeah, exactly.
A lot of times they have a lot of side effects.
Exactly. So let's talk about your first experience with shamanic medicine, because I think, we all have those experiences that leave such a deep impression upon us that we're just like, holy cow, what just happened to me? And this is the most amazing thing. I've got to go study this. You know what I mean? How did you find the shaman that you worked with? Was it someone local or someone?
Actually, they're in Houston.
They are interesting.
They are in Houston. They're just north of Houston in Huntsville. And so if anybody wants the name, I can
Mhm.
certainly put it there. But they were trained by the South American shamans.
Mhm.
And so I've been training with them for quite a while now. And I'm bringing it to Utah where I live.
That's
But I
awesome.
still go down. I'm actually going down there to Houston or Huntsville on Wednesday. And I
Mhm.
just basically help them with the ceremonies. And the ceremonies are meaning people come that want to just shed the past. And it's kind of like a baptism. You
Yeah.
shed the old and you bring in the new.
Yes.
And so my first session with them was just eye-opening. It was just the most beautiful. I had a lot of ancestral things that were passed on,
Mhm.
and I'm the youngest, so it was me
Yeah.
that was holding them all.
Mhm.
And so it was a lot of release. It was a lot of work, but it was very beautiful work
Yeah.
because the feeling of letting go of what no longer serves you is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you can bring in what does serve you.
Mhm.
But when you're resonating with lower frequencies of fear or anger, and I was kind of mad and like, why is this happening to me when I kept getting seriously injured on my right side?
Right.
I'm like, gosh darn it. And
Yeah.
then I just was like, okay, I gotta figure this out. And so that's what led me to them. And the experience was beautiful. And so I'm like, you know what? This really resonates with me. And so
Mhm.
I kept going back, and they're like, you kind of need to do this work. You're just, you resonate with the medicine. And so then I started training with them. And
Mhm.
yeah.
So talk about the cellular patterns that are passed down from generation to generation, because there's like you said, you didn't even know there was a connection. You weren't aware that there was something from, generations past that carried forward through you, because it wasn't necessarily your experiences or your illnesses or, you know, miasmic tendencies or whatever it was that happened all those generations ago, but yet
Mm-hmm.
it was stored in your cellular material,
Mm-hmm.
and it can start to come forward and express itself. Is that correct?
That is so correct. That is so correct. So, yeah, yeah, it's stored in our DNA and it's stored in
Mhm.
our frequency cellular material, like you were saying. And it's just releasing that stored energy. And you can
Mhm.
do that in so many different ways. You can do it through meditation and
Mhm.
intention. Um, Meditation and intention is so powerful.
Yes.
Uh, there's so many ways. Just walking in nature, and shamanism is just understanding nature and the frequency of nature. Hugging a tree. I mean, one really interesting and fabulous component is, for example, when we go day-to-day life and work and get stressed and don't eat the right things, we
Yeah.
lose electrons. When
Mhm.
we hug a pet,
Mhm.
we get electrons. When we walk barefoot on the grass, we gain electrons. When we hug a tree, when we listen to the wind, when we hear birds chirping, we get that. But we forget to
Mhm.
do all those things because we're so accustomed to just it being around us, and we
Yeah.
don't we just take it for granted.
Right. We don't stop and appreciate it. There's
Hmm.
so much distraction in our lives, in our daily work, in our families, and our careers, and obligations by the time you get home. I mean, it's like this laundry list that people have to go through every day, and they don't have a lot of them are just so overwhelmed with just the struggle of daily living that they just forget to take the time, don't have the time, they're just trying to struggle to get through the next day. A lot of us.
Yeah, it can just be 5 minutes sitting
Mhm.
outside and just watching a bird, or putting on a 5 or 10-minute meditation and laying on the couch and just listening. Little steps. And
Yeah.
then your heart will just start to open up and want to listen more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like exercise.
Yep.
It's so hard to take that initiative, and especially when you get out of the sync of it, doing it all. But if you just, stretch, or do a 10-minute yoga or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, walk, anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's something moving the body that releases that stress that we gain throughout the day.
Yes, exactly. So let's go back to shamanism and talk about the whole connection with animals.
Yes.
You have always been, I call what was the word? Menagerie. You've always had a menagerie of animals in your life, in your homes. I mean, you're like a Dr. Dolittle, you had everything.
Yeah. I had ferrets, lots of dogs, now lots of cats. Yeah, dogs are the 3D world, which is our everyday life. So they ground us, they protect us. They're beautiful animals. Cats, on the other hand, are 4th and 5th dimensional.
Yeah.
They see things that we don't see.
Yes.
And yes. And when they connect with you and you connect with them, then it's just a sense of love and unconditional with any animal, but domestic animals in particular, because they're not scared of you. They love you.
Right.
But cats are just really incredible. And this is what I learned, Pam. I was watching a How to Understand Your Cat a couple of months ago. And if you close your eyes like halfway, then they know that you're communicating with them. I don't know if you knew that, but I started doing that with my cats, and now they stare me straight in the eye.
Oh my gosh.
It just touches your heart, because they're like, okay, you want to connect? Okay, I'll connect with you. And deer, elk, butterflies, bees, whatever, they're part of, oh my gosh, there's that freaking deer. Okay, I've got to turn this around. It always comes around when something like this happens.
I love it so much. I love it so much. Let's see. Where is he? It's hard to see. Is he in your yard?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Well,
too hard to see, but yeah.
Okay, you just got to trust me on that one.
Yeah.
Whenever I come back from training, I have an Aussie, so she barks all the time. So they don't really come around, and we're up in the mountains, and we're in a neighborhood, but every time I come back, or I have some kind of emotional connection, I come back and they're in my yard, and here it is again. She's in my yard. But so it's just, when you learn how to connect, it's just beautiful.
I totally agree. Yeah. And it's like, when you get those signs of the deer just showing up, it's like I just call those kind of confirmations.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like I'll be sitting or doing something or driving or whatever, and maybe you're dealing with something or you're whatever, and then an animal will pop into your radar somehow. Maybe it's a spirit guide, maybe it is your spirit animal, and it just kind of confirms. It's like, yeah, you're doing good, you're on your path, just here to cheer you on, rah rah.
No matter what it is, it could be a squirrel running across the road, and it could just be a message to, hey, maybe you need to slow down a little bit. Life, meaning your car, just slowing down. Maybe it's just like the deer, just stopping and appreciating.
Yeah. Being present, being in the moment.
Yeah. And that's what shamanism is, accepting everything as energy. Your plants, talk to them, your animals, talk to them, connect with them, because it's
Mhm.
giving you energy and connectivity to the whole universe.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I love quantum physics. I love quantum coherence. I love the fact that we all are made of energy and connected. So, can you share a little bit more about that with our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. So, in quantum physics, we're all connected somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is a saying in quantum physics called quantum entanglement. And we're entangled, whoever we interact with, we're entangled with. So,
Mm-hmm.
when we start cleansing our bodies, opening our hearts, opening our chakras, releasing the things that do not anymore are not meaningful to us anymore, and accepting
Mm-hmm.
what is, then we move and we shift to a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
When we resonate with the stuff, oh, that person did this to me, or blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
when we put bad foods in our bodies and processed stuff, we just resonate at a lower frequency.
Lower. Mm-hmm.
So with quantum physics, the more we can cleanse, the more we can love, then we can unravel the quantum entanglement that we have with people and let go. So
Mm-hmm.
say, for example, you had a really, and this was my case, you had a relationship in the past that was just not real good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're still quantum entangled in that relationship, even though you're out of it.
Right.
So when you can forgive and let it go, you release that quantum entanglement. You
I love that.
forgive, I learned, I can grow.
Mm-hmm.
But when you stay in that thought and fear, oh, that person still did this to me. It could be a parent,
Yeah.
it could be anything,
Mm-hmm.
a friendship, a relationship. It could even be a pet where they passed suddenly and you weren't able to grieve and deal with it. You're still entangled with that.
Right.
And dogs and cats, they don't understand the foundation of the sorrow and the letting go that we have to deal with.
Yes.
But like, for example, my two golden retrievers, they were 15 years old. They had a great life, but it was time to let them go. And so I did a whole shamanic ceremony. And it was beautiful. I let them go. I looked them in the eye and said, I love you. And I know it's time for you to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so by having that separation and letting them go, I wasn't quantumly entangled and I'm not suffering anymore.
Right.
Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where energy medicine and quantum physics come together, is understanding that quantum entanglement and just forgiving and letting go. And then you're not entangled in it anymore and you're free.
Right. And I think it's also really cool because once you have made that decision to consciously let go and release, forgive, move on, whatever, and that does raise your vibrational frequency, I feel like that also impacts everybody that you're still entangled with because it's energy. It's like the pebble in the water, right?
You
It
are
has
so
that
correct.
ripple effect into everybody that you come in contact with, everybody that you speak to, your relationships or whatever. So if I change my vibrational frequency, it helps raise the frequency of those around us, right?
You are so correct. Yeah. And we're all shamans.
Mm-hmm.
We're all light workers. We just have to open up to it.
Yeah.
All a shaman is, and you've got the indigenous shamans who are honorable and they're named shamans, but then there's
Right.
shaman practitioners, and we all can be that. It's all about raising your vibration. And
Mm-hmm.
when you raise your vibration, everyone around you raises their vibration, and then everything is more harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that on Mother Earth, Gaia.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, we all imagine if everyone raised their vibrational frequency, how much it would impact the entire world.
Well,
And
it's already shifting.
Oh, it's totally shifting. It totally is.
I don't know if any of the viewers have felt really tired this week, but there has been some major shifting going on right now. So if you've been fatigued or tired or just kind of like, what's kind of just a little bit off a little bit, the vibration of the earth, so many people are waking up right now. And it's great, but it's causing a little bit of confusion. So go out there and walk on the grass, walk on some dirt and sit outside, look at the moon. Gazing at the sun before it comes up or when it's going down actually opens your pineal gland.
Yes.
Sun gazing. Little things like that will just really raise your vibration. And then, of course, just sitting in stillness and letting your mind settle, just if it's 5 minutes, even if it's listening to beautiful music.
No, I was really tired this weekend. Like I just felt drained.
Me too.
And I don't normally feel like that, but it was just like a heaviness. It was a heaviness, and my body just wanted to rest. I just wanted to sit and close my eyes. You know. And I fell asleep on the couch with my phone in my hand.
I know. I was working and I'm like, I'm just going to lay down for a minute. And I put on something and I never take a nap, but same thing. And it's because the earth is waking up. So many people are curious. They're wanting to change. They're just waking up. So many people are waking up, and that's shifting the consciousness and the vibration of Mother Earth. And it's great, but it can be a little unsettling. So yeah, lay down for a minute if you need to, or gaze at the sun and hug your pet and get those electrons.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to read some comments over here. So JSF 22 says, ancestral healing can be done with a shamanic healer. Healing the ancestral line is very important to our own healing, and making an offering to the ancestors is a very important first step.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. And then let's see what else. A lot of people are saying they've been exhausted and they just are out of it and feel horrible. And the energy is off. It's so interesting how, and what do you think our pets are feeling? Or the animals, what do you think they're experiencing right now?
They've been wanting to, I got my dog over on the right here and my cat over here and then my other cat over there. They're like just chilling, but they want to be close to us.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, look at that.
It's so cute.
I know.
It's just,
I love it.
It's so fun.
Animals, let me throw this in there. Animals teach us, if everyone looks at their past and remembers their first animal, or sitting out in nature when we're kids and watching a butterfly or watching or connecting with an animal, that's our first consciousness awakening experience where we get unconditional love. Because humans can hurt sometimes, but animals are unconditional. And that's what source is.
Right.
And so when our animals are around and we're petting them and getting all those electrons, we're actually opening our heart chakra and just loving unconditionally. And that's the beauty of, dogs are grounding 3D, cats, again, are 4 and 5 dimensional. So they are a frequency or two above us. And so when we connect with them, they're connecting us with source if we open ourselves up and listen.
That's so it's fascinating. And you know how that you get that warm and fuzzies when you're holding your cat, or when you're petting your dog, or it's like your heart chakra just wants to explode. And that's a very healthy place to be. The more time we can spend in that heart chakra moment and just letting that heart chakra open and expand,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just imagine if we did that every single day,
Yes,
how much our lives would be different,
I
and
know.
the impact that it can have on us physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of, everything.
Mm-hmm. I personally think everyone should have a cat.
I do too. I completely agree with you. Adina has a question. She goes, what about horses on the dimension side? They seem to be very, very intuitive and spiritual as well, right?
They can actually be both. They can be grounding,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can be on the fourth and fifth dimension. And the fourth dimension is in between the 3D, which is, our everyday life here. When we meditate, we move into the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is very, very up there with the angels and stuff. So horses are definitely going back and forth.
Yeah, I can see
Back
that.
and forth. Yeah.
They're
And
very.
the same with wildlife. They are too. They go back and forth. They're grounding. Dogs are just more protective of their owner and more 3D grounding.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cats have their own mind.
They sure do. They can move into, I mean, they may even go to the 10th dimension. There's no telling. They are
Right.
very, very.
Yeah, especially when they're really centered and grounded, and they have their little paws crossed and they're sitting in a loaf with their eyes closed and it looked like they're just in meditation mode.
Exactly.
I always wonder, like, what are you thinking right now?
I know. Isn't it? Or they look up and they're watching something. You're like, okay, what are they seeing? They see a lot more than we do.
Oh, yes.
They can see the spirits and
It's fascinating.
It is.
Fascinating. So let's talk more about the animals.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, are there specific animals in shamanism that have more important roles than others, for example? Or how do we connect with our spirit animals and things like that?
It's so personal. Well, for example, when I was little, I loved bugs. So every time I go and I connect with nature, I just, and I sit on the mat in ceremony. That's when we do our medicinal shamanic medicine. Many times, it's happened like 4 times. A caterpillar is just on my mat. And I loved caterpillars growing up. We don't have them much here in Utah, but so that's meaningful for me. And it's also a symbolism of transformation because I'm moving so fast into just the shamanism and spirit realm. And then butterflies for me, but it's so personal. So if you, okay, for example, when my golden Titus moved into the spirit world, I was sitting on the couch after his ceremony and I looked at the TV and this buffalo was just staring at me. And I'm like, wow. And then the lights all started flickering in the house.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible. I'm like, whoa. I mean, it was just so whenever I see a buffalo, and I don't see them in my yard or driving around, but when I do see a buffalo, it reminds me of just power and strength that dog gave me. So back to your question, it's just so personal. I think if you stop and relax and sit outside, an animal or a critter or something will come to you. And they're coming here to give you a message. They're in the spiritual realm. And our ancestors or our friends or whoever that passed over, they come back and give you messages if you can listen. So
yes, talk about that a little bit more, because I find that fascinating. And I don't know if people are aware how that works.
well, for example,
it really does work.
It does. One guy we worked with during a ceremony, real bad PTSD, a military vet, and just I was observing at the time, and he was sitting on the mat, is where you sit when you're doing your medicinal medicine. He started looking around, really confused, and so hard. And I'm watching him going, I wonder what, just on the belly. It was this is a very stoic, no feeling guy because of PTSD and the military and all that. And so, and then a butterfly landed on his shoulder. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And so afterwards, I went up and talked to him. I'm like, I thought it was interesting that you laughed so hard. I've never seen you laugh so hard. And he goes, yeah, my best friend passed away, and I've been struggling with that. And I see this tattoo on my arm. Well, that's my butterfly of her, and it's her, and it had her name and everything. And then he goes, and then the butterfly just landed on my shoulder, right under her, where he got the tattoo. And I saw her spirit. And that's why I was laughing, because I was like, this is just too incredible. And
yeah,
he said weird at the time, but he's like, it's not weird. It's I'm so amazed that this actually happened. And so they do come to you, and you just got to listen.
Absolutely. That's so very cool. Athena says, can an octopus be a spirit animal?
Of course.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So what you would do is you would think about, what is that octopus trying to tell me? It has 8 legs. Doesn't an octopus have 8 legs? I think it does. Mm-hmm. Do you have too many hands in the fire? Trying to, do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Or an octopus is very smart, and they can camouflage themselves. So maybe read up on a little bit about an octopus and see what things an octopus has or portrays that resonates with the person. They're very smart too. And they're very gentle and kind. And so it could be a number of things, but it could be anything. It could be an ant. It could be a bee. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell people, if you want to learn more about the animal that you're drawn to, Google like symbolism of, and then animal. Mm-hmm. And you'll find so many pages and sites that you can just read, what they stand for, their characteristics, what they symbolize. And as you read through that list, there might be something that really stands out to you, and you go, oh, that's the message.
And you got to write it down.
Yes.
You got to write it down, because you're going to forget about it. So if you just have a little notebook by you, and if you're sitting outside and something pops in your mind, or you Google the octopus, for example, and you write down a couple of things, you might come back to it a month or 3 months later, and it might really make sense.
Right. I tell people, if it doesn't resonate with you now, that just set it aside.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense yet. You're not ready for the message or that part of what you're needing to know down the road. But at some point, something will click, and you'll make the connection, and you'll be like, oh,
yeah,
I get it now.
Yeah. And it could be just an introduction of something you need to explore.
Yeah.
And then again, like what you said, you come back to it and you're like, of course. Yeah. And then maybe another animal comes in.
How many spirit animals can we have?
Oh, we can have as many as we want. There probably are a couple of maybe 2 or 3 dominant ones.
Yeah.
And if you close your eyes and if you ask the universe and you set an intention, help me find my spirit animal, it'll come. It'll just show up.
Yes. I tell people, keep an open mind, because you never know what's going to show up.
You don't.
You just don't. And it doesn't have to be like outside in the wild. It could be like you're reading a magazine or a book, and you turn it over, and there's, a shark, or it can be a sign that you see. It can, something that catches your attention and it has an animal on it. It can be sitting outside in your backyard and something comes into your space, or you see something, flying over the head or flying over around in your yard or on a hike or whatever, you can encounter something, but that's not always the only way.
No, it could be something you see on TV, and then the next time you're looking through a magazine and you see the same animal.
Yes.
Okay, that's, as long as you're open to it and think, okay, there's a correlation here. There's an owl that lives in a tree outside, comes back every year. And so I'm assuming that's maybe, since it chose our tree in the front yard, that's a spirit animal. When I was living in Colorado, a bear, I left the garage door open, and a bear came into our garage and pulled the trash cans out. We had spectators, and I didn't even know the bear was in our garage. And I'm looking outside, I'm like, and my son was like, Mom, all these people are taking pictures of our house. I'm like, what? And I'm looking outside, and all these people are out there, and I'm like, and so I opened the door, and they're like, no, go back inside. And there was a bear in our garage, and it pulled the trash cans out into the driveway and was just going through, and it had 2 baby bears with it. And then my son ran out, and I'm like, Peyton, get back inside. And he's like, Mom, I came face to face with this baby bear. I'm like, oh my gosh, because the mama's right there.
Right,
so
right.
That was a message, and I had to figure that out at the time. That was probably 7 years ago. But now my life has changed, and now it's deer, or it can definitely change. So they're there at certain times. And just like the owl is in my front yard and the deer is in my backyard, those are 2 animals I would definitely look up and see, like Google what you said, and just find out what they're trying to bring me as far as something I need to know.
Right. What is the most profound message that you have received, or messages that you've received from your spirit animals? And
well, when I first started doing this work, I mentioned that the caterpillar landed on my mat, and that's happened several times when I've been doing the training and stuff. And so the caterpillar for me is transformation. I've really grown in the last year, learning all of what I've set my mind and my heart to learning. And so transformation, that was very powerful. And it's just a little baby caterpillar.
Right.
That's probably the most profound. And then the deer coming every time I've had a shift in my growth. They just, or when I'm about to do something that's in my heart, like a meditation or something I'm thinking about, they'll be in my yard. So it's nothing profound, but it's very profound to me in my own way.
Well, and the fact that things keep coming repetitively, I've always learned that when things start to happen repetitively, it's like really trying to get our attention.
Yes.
You see it, once, and you don't give it much thought. You see the same animal again the next day, and you're not really connecting. You see it again the next day, and you're like, wait, that's 3 times I've seen this animal, which is all unusual because I don't normally see that animal in this circumstance or whatever.
Right.
It makes you stop and finally go, okay, there's a message here. What am I missing? I got to go look up the animal.
You hit the nail on the head, because the deer, they always come at a specific time. They don't show up when I'm exercising or when I'm working on something serious. They always show up when it's something very spiritual. And then the caterpillars are always when I'm gaining transformative knowledge and shifting to a new level of growth in what I'm learning and growing and stuff like that. So
yes.
But you hit the nail on the head. It's not just one time. I mean, these caterpillars have landed on my mat 3 times, and now the facilitators at the place, they'll come over with, the kapal or the sage or something, and it'll be on that branch, and they'll bring it over and here you go, and they'll give it to me. So yeah, it's very repetitive and very timely.
Yeah. Yeah. The key is us becoming aware.
Yeah.
It's like, stop, be in the moment, observe, pay attention, and really tune into what that animal is trying to teach us, to show us, to help us grow, to encourage us, to warn us, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And, with cats being on that fourth and fifth dimension, if they're on your chest and you're having a petting session with them, you can look them in the eye and say, why don't you help me find my spirit animal? Because remember, they're the link to those higher frequencies, and they're little angels. They'll be the intermediary between our intentions and bringing in what we are wanting to seek and find.
100%. Yeah, they're a little smart.
And if you don't have a cat, it's okay. Just sit outside and watch a bird. It's interesting. A robin, a female robin is so picky. They're very particular nest builders. And if a male robin brings them the wrong thing to build their nest, they'll say, nah, I don't want you around. But if the right male robin brings them the right thing for the nest, then they're like, okay, you're a keeper. You want to be my mate? And so, so just watching a bird or a butterfly or something and just tuning in to something in nature and get you there.
Yes, that's really beautiful.
It doesn't have to be a dynamic deer or bear or owl. Yeah. It can be something so simple as butterflies or caterpillars.
And I love dragonflies as well. I think dragonflies are so spiritual. I've told that they're kind of mystical and they can go in between the realms.
Yeah. They're like little fairies.
Yes. Yes. But they can also symbolize transformation as well because of their ability to shift and go through dimensions, and similar to caterpillars, but not exactly. But
no, dragonflies, they're just mystical. Oh, I love dragonflies. They're just so beautiful. They're one in its own. You can't compare them to a butterfly or a caterpillar. No. They're just like, I think of them as little fairies.
All the different colors.
I know. And the fact they eat so many mosquitoes.
Yeah, we like having them around.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, so we have about 7 minutes left. What else can we share about shamanism that you want people to know? Where can they? Let's start with where can they find out more about it? Where can they study it? Where would you direct them to start? Maybe the organization that you're working with, or sure.
Yeah, so they can. I can put my website on here. I do have. I do remote scans for the body, and then I do also do consultations if people are wanting to get started. They can contact with me, and then if they want to dive deeper and do any sacred medicine, they can also ask me about that. There is, like I said, an organization in Huntsville, Texas, which is just north of Houston, that is called Universal Shamans of the New Tomorrow. And then my facility up here that I'm about to start is going to be called Bliss, BILSS, Sanctuary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'll be doing stuff here, and then I go down to Huntsville to help them out. There actually is going to be a big ceremony in San Antonio in October.
Oh, nice.
And so anybody can reach out to me and ask questions. If you go to my website, then my phone number's there, my email's there, or you can contact me through the email. So I'll type that in real quick.
Yeah, drop it in there. I've got one kitten in my lap who wants to climb, and I've got one asleep. We're connecting with our heart chakra right now.
Well, and let me show you my little dog here. Here's my.
Is that your Aussie?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's kind of sleepy.
Hi, baby girl.
This is Talon.
Hi, Talon. Sweet girl. She's like,
and then, of course, Thor.
Look at that sweet baby.
He's a cuddler.
Oh,
and he was actually a rescue. And we just found him and fell in love with him, and he's just been so wonderful.
And they always are. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to wrap up here in about 5 minutes, but does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a few questions before we close. Do y'all have any specific questions about animal spirits, spirit guides, anything else on shamanism that we have not touched base on? Feel free to drop it in here. I think it's been fascinating. I'm so interested in the whole spiritual side of growth, especially, when it comes to connecting to source and to energy and frequencies around us, because it can be so powerful. And again, it's what we set our intention to learn and to do and to grow. And like you said earlier, people are waking up to their power and to, the world around them, and realizing that, wait, there's so much more than I realized,
Well, we all came here for a purpose. And a lot of times in our 20s and 30s, we're living life and doing our free will and everything. And then all of a sudden you get to a point and you're like, well, wait a minute. What is life? Who am I? What is this? Who's God?
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're asking the questions means you're on the right path, because we're all here for a purpose. And it's all about love and connectivity.
Absolutely. Maggie has a question, because what about reincarnation regarding cats?
Oh, good question. I personally think that we have drop-ins from other spirits and ancestors and people who have passed that drop into our animals and just show up and want to be with us for a little bit. As far as reincarnation, I do believe in that.
Yeah, I do too. And I've had a drop-in through Aylin last year. Hershey came and dropped in to her body. It was April 1st. I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday night, and I'm sitting here at my computer doing something. And she was in one of those modes where she just wanted to be held. And she was going from shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. And just her demeanor was different, right? And something clicked in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think you're Aylin. I think you're Hershey. And so I did a little muscle test, and it was Hershey. And I'll tell you, it spooked her, because I just sat there and I just was holding her, and I was, saying, oh, Hershey, I love you. I miss you so much. And I was talking to him.
I just got chills.
I was so grateful that he was here. And then I said something like, what do you think about the house? Because, it moved and everything. And it was like a switch. And she was just like, all of a sudden she was just startled, and she jumped over to the other side of the desk, and she looked at me with this curious expression, like, what the hell just happened to me? And you could see the confusion. She's like, I don't understand what just happened to me. And I was doing some energy work on her, and spiritual interference came up with cat and spirit. And of
Wow.
course, it was confirmation. It's like, I knew that was Hershey. I just know his personality.
Uh-huh.
And it's happened a couple times, and she didn't freak out as much the second time, but man, the first time she was just like, you could just see the expression on her face, like she'd had no idea what just happened, but it was weird. You know,
Yeah.
she was giving me that look like, um, what the hell just happened to me? You know,
Wow.
it
So
was
there's
the coolest,
validation.
it's the coolest thing. So yes, I've had a drop in. It is an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I had to do some emotional clearing on her because she was a little freaked out.
Like,
She did not understand what was going on.
right. Where am I? Where did I go?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so wild. But anyway, you guys, we're going to have to call it a day, but I appreciate you being here. I hope this was informative for everyone. We want you to go and learn who your spirit animal is, or who your spirit animals come in, coming into your circle, and go explore, because
Yeah,
it is just an amazing connection.
it is.
And they do have messages. We just have to go look.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maggie, I would just go look, research on spirit drop-ins. Just do a Google search on spirit
Mhm.
drop-ins.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
see what you can find.
Yeah.
But Adrianne, thank you so much for joining us. And
Absolutely.
we can hang out for a second, but I'll go ahead and shut down this show. Thank you everyone for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
everyone.
We will see you guys next month, and we will put Adrianne's information in here. If it's not already in here, definitely reach out to her. So thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.